Jesse, I'll swing it down to you. 53-man set for the Niners. A guy on the team that wasn't on the team last week, Brian Robinson Jr. The Niners trade with the Commanders, a sixth-round pick to acquire Brian Robinson. So talk to me about the mindset behind that move, and then also give me your thoughts on the 53, any surprises or anybody we need to know about.
Yeah, it was a move that absolutely needed to be made. They had traded for Skyy Moore just a day or two prior to that, and Brian Robinson Jr. was the guy that pretty much every 49er fan wanted. To me, it does signify a little bit that maybe the 49ers regret trading Jordan Mason, but bringing in Robinson, he's certainly a player that can get some snaps for this team. The 49ers are, in my opinion, only as good as Christian McCaffrey is this year. If Christian McCaffrey is the old Christian McCaffrey, then they got a chance. If he's not, then they're going to be in serious trouble. And so Brian Robinson Jr. certainly is not only the insurance for him, but really more so should be there to spell him. Hopefully he will actually get snaps, unlike JP Mason once Christian McCaffrey came back. We'll see how that plays out, but I absolutely love the move. It was one that was needed. They were desperate at the running back position, and they really didn't give up much, and Washington's paying most of the contract. So great move by the 49ers. Loved it. When it comes to the 53-man roster, couple of interesting things. Again, Brandon just talked about that the rosters aren't set. There's moving parts. For example, the 49ers cut their punter. He'll be back on the roster tomorrow. They just have some moving parts that they're waiting for. They were waiting for the Demarcus Robinson suspension to fully come down. Until then, he counted as a roster spot. So there was some interesting little moves that they made. But right now, looking at this roster, they kept 5 receivers. The problem with that is 2 of them they kept are also IR candidates. Jauan Jennings may go to the IR. I think it's less likely, but it is possible. Jacob Cowing's most likely going to end up on IR, so that's 2 of the 5 that you kept. Demarcus Robinson and Ayuk are not going to count against that roster spot because they're not going to be there. Demarcus Robinson for the first 3 weeks, Ayuk for the first 4 weeks at least. So the wide receiver spot is still a big question mark for the 49ers. Linebacker spot was one that was highly contested. There was 3 linebackers that were being looked at, and all 3 of them really, truly deserved a spot on this roster. That was Tatum Bethune, who ended up actually getting the roster spot. Cam Robinson and Jalen Graham, all 3 played very, very well this preseason, and Tatum Bethune is the one that won it out, so kudos to him. And then the biggest one, fan favorite, if the 49ers had been on Hard Knocks, they always find one player to follow around that you love that usually ends up getting cut. Well, that player was Chase Lucas for the 49ers, a bit of a journeyman, drafted by the 49ers about 3-4 years ago, went to the Lions, played on, was on their practice squad a little bit, then came back to the 49ers, took his chance this offseason. He has absolutely shined. He's a trash talker. He's a leader, and he backed it up in every single game, made play after play after play. He ends up making the roster at the cornerback position. So that was a feel-good story that I know a lot of 49er fans were very excited about. And then 49er fans, the biggest thing is with these roster moves, they care about special teams again. Luke Gifford and Siran Neal making this roster tells you they absolutely want to be good in special teams, which might be a first under Kyle Shanahan. So for the most part, very good things from the 49ers. Still some question marks, but also still some moving parts.
You did mention Skyy Moore, the former second-round draft pick from the Kansas City Chiefs in 2022. Obviously hasn't panned out the way KC had hoped, so he moves on to San Francisco. He was meant to be that speed guy, right, sort of fill in what Tyreek Hill was, didn't end up coming to fruition. What's the role that you think he'll have in this team? Do you think he'll be able to find something that he couldn't find in Kansas City?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, if Kansas City is one of the dumbest organizations around, we all know that. I mean, they got Patrick Mahomes and the best coach in football. So if they can't make it work, then another team easily can turn Skyy Moore around. Obviously, I'm being very facetious there. I don't know what Skyy Moore is or is not. What I do know is he was basically competing with a 7th-round pick in Junior Bergen to be the punt returner. It looks like he's the one that's going to be given that job. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan has a vision for how he can use him, maybe some end arounds, a little bit of that Debo role, Debo light type of situation. Will he pan out? I'm not sure, but it's worth the flyer. He's only 1 month. He's actually 1 month younger than Ricky Pearsall, who's in year 2, and this is year 4 for Skyy Moore. So you never know. Kyle Shanahan certainly is a very good coach, knows what he's doing offensively. Maybe he can turn him around, but it's hard to view a player playing with a wide receiver depleted team with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and couldn't pan out. I don't have a lot of confidence that he'll figure it out here in San Francisco.
Sticking with the wide. Oh, go ahead.
Kind of hard for wide receivers if they can't catch. It's definitely it's an uphill climb.
Yeah.
Well, we know Jauan Jennings can catch. The problem is he going to be out on the field? You just mentioned IR. I know he's been dealing with that calf all offseason here. Is that a real possibility? Do you think that's going to end up happening? Him out for the first month there. Obviously, the Niners right now, you mentioned it, they kept 5. Ayuk going to be out to start the year. If he's out, how are you feeling about the ability for Brock Purdy to get the ball down the field?
Well, I mean, Jauan Jennings is definitely going to be needed if the 49ers are going to be competitive this year. A lot of people thought that the injury was fake and he was doing a holdout because he wants the new contract. It's absolutely not true. It's never been true. He's really hurt. And the 49ers also, though, are making business decisions. And they say, okay, well, this player's hurt, but also we would like to save some money potentially, so we could move him to IR. That stops him from getting some of his bonuses. There's some games that are being played here. The 49ers aren't necessarily too happy with the way that the offseason played out with him. He's not happy with the way that the offseason played out either. So we'll see what ends up happening. It is a real possibility. I would say I'm leaning towards it not happening, but it certainly could, and that's going to hurt the 49ers. The great thing is the number one wide receiver on this team is George Kittle. And they brought in Farrell from the Jaguars to be the blocking tight end, I assume, to get George Kittle loose the way that he always should have been. And then you've got Christian McCaffrey as your safety blanket. Ricky Pearsall is one of those players that he's not going to be a number one wide receiver, but he's certainly a guy that you can scheme open. If you get him in motion, you get him two-way goes, he's always going to be able to find a way to get open. He's a good route runner. You just need to get him those free, clean releases. And Kyle Shanahan's going to do that. So you're going to have that option available to you. Christian McCaffrey's always open. George Kittle's always open. So 49ers should be fine. Brock Purdy was paid for this to be fine. So hopefully things will be fine.
What is the injury for Jauan Jennings? I apologize. What is the
calf?
Oh,
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they're maybe going to try to use as much of Kittle as we've seen throughout his career this year with the wide receiver situation and kind of slot looks, kind of like almost in kind of a, the way they did a little, not full on Jimmy Graham Saints style, but just that, okay, we've got to put Pearsall to the outside. We'd like to have him inside. So let's put him out to the outside. Then maybe we can get a nice slot guy in there and Kittle and what he can do in that at that point for some snaps here or there.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Kittle is he can do it all, so you can line him up in the slot. He can line up with his hand in the dirt and run great routes. So, I think priority number one is to get Pearsall those free releases. I think it's a must. Even in practice now, if he gets jammed, it's over for him. He's a little slight in frame, and that's okay. Not every wide receiver wins the same way. I mean, Wes Welker wasn't an outside receiver. Julian Edelman wasn't an outside receiver, but they had great careers, and I think Ricky Pearsall can too. You just have to use him properly. So I think that's more of the priority, but certainly, I mean, George Kittle can be used literally anywhere, and it'll be fine.
At 31 years of age, he gets the 4-year contract extension. Maybe outside of Brock Bowers last year, George Kittle was the best tight end in the NFL. Is it fair to expect the same result, the same output from Kittle this year going into year 31? Obviously, the Niners believe in him. They give him the money to back it up. But knowing that he's going to be the primary focus of that offense in the pass game, is it fair to expect that he has as big of an impact as he did last year?
Yeah, as long as he's healthy, I don't see a decline coming for George Kittle. But that's the biggest thing. I mean, George Kittle usually misses a couple games every year. Last year, he didn't. And you watch George Kittle play, he's always got a limp. Like, he's always got something going on, and he's always on the injury report. Usually he ends up playing, but sometimes those injuries add up. So I don't know if you can expect him to be healthy for all 17, but when he is out there, I don't see him slowing down. I really don't.